Good evening, guys. It's been a while since I've been live. I hope to do more lives this summer. It's been kind of hectic. However, I did want to come on and discuss the current market that looks like we're transitioning into. Now, I just want to preference that this market is not necessarily in all markets in the United States, but there are markets where we're seeing discounted prices and we're starting to see it turn to a buyer's market. So, what consists of a buyer's market? Typically when you see 6 months of inventory available on the market, that is typically when you see a buyer's market. I can speak for the Metro Atlanta area right now. We're seeing more properties listed than are actually being sold. So, what we're seeing anywhere between 4 and 5 months of inventory, which is seeing a shift in the buyer's market. So, if this channel is for buyers and sellers if you're looking to sell, but predominantly buyers come on and have discussions and talk about things they want to know as a buyer. So I want to walk through some things that you need to prepare for as a buyer and what you can prepare for in this market as a buyer. So first things first, you definitely want to have your documentation prepared. What I'm seeing now is a lot of people have been transitioning. They've been moving around a little bit because either the rent went up and they transitioned to a home with a family member. Some of their stuff is in storage. They also have moved from apartment to apartment and their stuff is in storage as well. Or they've got it in boxes where they're temporarily where they are until they can buy. So they don't want to unpack everything. However, if you don't have paper copies, and you have to move, I would go ahead and I would actually scan and email your 2 most recent pay stubs, as well as your bank statements, Well, you know what? Your 2 most recent W-2s. And you also want to make sure you are have your most recent 2 or 3 years of tax returns. You want to be able to know how to access your bank statements if you need to go online and access the bank statements. If you had something else that I see that buyers are having an issue with is because they don't utilize their 401k and they're just getting funds in their 401k, they don't know how to access or get their statement for the 401k. So you want to be able to figure out how you receive your 401k statement, whether that's via email every month or quarterly, or if there's a website that you can log into and get them. But just have a way to be able to access them if that is a way that you're going to utilize those funds. In order to qualify or to utilize those funds to pay for your down payment and or closing costs. You definitely want to make sure, and you don't have to scan and email it unless it's coming up soon, but a copy of an unexpired driver's license. You might want to find where your social security card is. And you also want to make sure you have access to your passport if you can't find your social security card. You can always go to the Social Security Administration and order a new social security card. So those things are important so you don't have to dig through boxes. The documentation is always key. The other thing is you want to make sure that you have the ability to or understand what's on your credit. So, going to a lender, having them pull in your credit, like we're going to see things And I mean, it's a certain way that your credit has to look. It's not for you to figure out on your own. It's for you to walk through it with a lender, and we kind of guide you as to what you need to do on your credit, right? Now, in terms of looking at your credit, I advise you to look at your credit so you have an understanding of what's actually on your credit report. Now, when you're looking at your credit report and seeing what's actually on your credit report, just kind of take notes or highlight, okay, I wasn't aware that this collection was on here. Oh, this was paid. I'm not sure why it's showing. So you have an idea of what's on there. So when you go to the actual lender, the lender can say, hey, were you aware that you had a judgment? Were you aware that there's a repossession on there? Were you aware that you were late? Like, you have an idea of your credit. All of these things are going to prepare you to be in position to purchase. So when the market shifts to a fully buyer's market, whenever that may be, that you're in position or you've already started and you're not trying to catch the wave, that you're preparing for the wave. With that being said, you also want to continue to budget, right? Or start to budget. In the comments, I will have a link to a downloadable budget worksheet that you can get. You can go on, and what I advise you to do is to take out your bank statements, your most recent bank statement or bank statements, and go through and put down all of your expenses that you see, all of the things that you pay, and then maybe have a sideline or on the back item where it says miscellaneous, where you spent on miscellaneous things. In doing that, that is where you can help find more money, or where you can save money, whether it's subscriptions, or whether it's eating out too much, or maybe, whatever, spending too much on Amazon, Temu. All of those things are important in terms of saving money. Now, you're probably asking, hey, Kevin, what does that have to do with now's current market? It has a lot to do with it, because if you're not in position financially and credit wise, you won't be able to take advantage of changes in the market. So how are you affected in the changes in the market? So one thing is that sellers are potentially going to be lowering their prices of their homes because they have to try to get them sold. So if you are a buyer and you're pre-approved for, let's say, 325, and the house that you look at is 335, in a buyer's market, you may be able to ask for the $10,000 off, as well as asking for some closing cost assistance. Because right now there's less buyers buying and there's more inventory. So you're not running into the multiple offer situations that you were previously running into in most markets. Now, I put out a poll on one of my social media platforms, and I was asking realtors, hey, are you seeing a change in the market? If so, where are you and what do you see? And, agents in the metro Atlanta market were saying, hey, we're seeing a shift to more of a buyer's market. I had someone comment from Florida who says that it's definitely a buyer's market because sellers are trying to get rid of their townhouses and condos and homes down in Florida. So they're seeing they're seeing a lot of inventory. So there's more sellers in that market than there are buyers that are actually looking to buy. I had someone respond from New Jersey who said in New Jersey, they're still seeing multiple offer situations. And I asked, was that because, people are moving from New York to New Jersey? And they said it was a combination of people moving from New York down to New Jersey because homes are less in New Jersey than some parts of New Jersey than it is New York, but also because of lack of inventory, what people can actually afford. They're still seeing multiple offer situations, and they're also seeing, over asking price. A guy, he had responded to he said it was Southern New England, which is like Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. And he says he's seeing multiple offer situations as well. I've talked to agents in Delaware, and they're seeing a slower market simply because housing prices are higher. And then I've talked to new construction agents, and I've seen new construction. New construction companies are still offering incentives. The incentives, they're still offering, low interest rates for, sometimes for 2 years, sometimes it's permanent low interest rates. They're offering, closing cost assistance, a combination of the two. 9 times out of 10, they want you to go with their preferred lender. And definitely, that they want you to go with their preferred lender because they've partnered with them to give the incentive, but also so they can kind of control the deal, meaning they want you to go with their preferred lender. They want you to go with their preferred closing attorney. They typically own the lender. They're going to try to get you to go with their insurance company, which they own. So yeah, they're giving you an incentive, but at the same time, they've got their hands in all facets of the transaction, which again, they make money on because they're the builder, they're the lender, they got the insurance company, and then sometimes they have some type of partnership where they may own the title company, depending on what state you're in. If you're an attorney state, then that's a different story. If you're a title state, it may be that they own the title company. So, those are all things that you have to watch for. Since we're on new construction, something else that I see, yes, they're offering amazing incentives, but do not, and I repeat, do not go to a new construction sales site and allow for the site agent to represent you. You're not saving any more money on purchasing the home by not utilizing a real estate professional to help you in your transaction. I repeat, when you go to the sales center, if you don't have a realtor already in mind, I still would not sign anything they gave me, simply because when you decide that you want to buy, and if you buy in that community and you've already signed saying you don't have any representation, they're not going to compensate your realtor for helping you through the transaction. And if your realtor helps you through the transaction, you're probably going to have to sign a buyer's brokerage agreement, which allows for them to tell you how much you have to pay them for that transaction. So instead of the commission or compensation, the compensation coming from the builder and the sale of the home, it will come from you. So if you told your realtor you would pay 3% on a $300,000 house, you're going to be paying $9,000 additional on top of the closing costs, because you've already signed to say you're going to compensate your real estate professional, because that's what you signed in the contract. So make sure when you go to new construction sites that you in fact have representation. And even if you go when you're looking, I wouldn't sign anything. Signing that second doesn't stop you from being able to get incentives. And if you have been pre-approved, if you know that you're going to a new construction sales site and you know that you want new construction, I get it. They say, hey, check 3 different lenders. But what I would ask is, hey, if I use a different lender, do I still receive the incentives? If the answer is yes, I would go to a lender of my choice and have them pre-approve me. If the answer is no, I would go to their lender and have them pre-approve me. Now, in some cases, yes, they'll let you use an outside lender to pre-approve you, to get you through the transaction, but they're also going to say, hey, you can use your own lender, but you need to get pre-approved or let our lender take a look at your credit. What does that do? That gives them 2 things: a sense of, okay, even though they don't want to use our lender, we know we can get them, that the lender should be able to get them closed. And the other thing is they'll say, hey, since our lender has already pre-approved you, we're offering this extra incentive or this incentive for you to use us. So those are things that you need to take in consideration in being prepared for the market. As there's less home selling and buyers are far and few in between, the incentives potentially get better on new construction. The other thing is incentives typically get better in what you can negotiate with a seller on their home. Like an example I said, if the house was $335, you offer $225 and you ask for $10,000 in closing cost assistance, that's $20,000 from what they would get, but you may be the only buyer that they've had or seen. So I'm not saying going in and lowballing, but what I'm saying is when the market shifts, there's room for more negotiating for buyers, and you have to have an agent that's knowledgeable and willing to negotiate some of those things. And your agent has to understand the market. I would not, I've had a couple of situations where buyers have expressed a concern that their agent wasn't negotiating on their behalf. And I kind of see it from both standpoints. You feel like, hey, I want to offer this. And the agent feels like, hey, this may be too low of an offer for us to get it accepted. Obviously, it's the agent's job to help guide you in the negotiations of the transaction, but it's also their job to present your offer. Now, will they? I don't know, but their job is to negotiate and to submit an offer that you request. Sometimes buyers offer too low and the agent's like, hey, this is going to be rejected because of this and that, and they're most likely telling the truth. And sometimes the agent doesn't know and they're just afraid to offer what you are because they don't understand the market. They may have just got back into the business and felt like, hey, when last house I sold, it was above asking. So what you offer is also going to be different based off of how many offers are coming in. If it's a multiple offer situation, you're going to have to come in with a strong offer. Like you need to make sure that if they say, hey, we've got highest and best, there's 4 other offers besides yours, so a total of 5 offers, and you come in and say, hey, I want this $30,000 house for $300, and I want them to give me $15,000 in closing cost assistance, you're probably not going to win that bid. So when it's multiple offers, buyers, you want to make sure you offer your highest and your best. If it's not multiple offers, I'm not saying lowball, but there's a little bit more wiggle room and negotiating room. Just still understand that while you're negotiating this, as long as you're not binding or under contract, the seller still has the ability to entertain other offers because your offer is no longer, at some point, it may no longer be the only offer on the market. So I just will kind of reset the room. Kevin Jefferson, the People's Lender. Hey, we're discussing, if you just joined, we're discussing the buyer's market. In the beginning of the video, I talked about buyers getting prepared. I went into detail what you need to prepare for, how you need to prepare, things you need to look at to prepare yourself for the market. Can we time it? No. I gave an example of us being in headed towards a buyer's market in the metro Atlanta area. But in other parts of the country, you also have where there are still moving and fast markets, such as I said, Southern New England, which is Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. You also have the markets in New Jersey where the people were saying, hey, in New Jersey, at least in northern New Jersey, we're seeing, highest and best, and we're seeing over asking. So, real estate is local. Delaware housing prices are higher. In the southern part of the state, seems like more new construction is moving. houses aren't selling as fast. And then up in the northern part, it seems like houses are selling faster, but it's still moving towards a buyer's market. So again, I said, what consists of a buyer's market? What consists of a buyer's market is that there are more properties for sale than there are sales being done. So when there's typically 5 to 6 months of inventory, more so 6 months of inventory, it's now shifted to what we call a buyer's market. When there's less, then it's considered what you call a seller's market. So I've just kind of been seeing a shift in the market here in our area and some of the other areas. Again, like I said, Florida is in a buyer's market. Certain parts of Texas, Austin, which was hot. I mean, Austin was on fire during COVID and running a little bit beyond COVID. Now those prices have settled and people aren't buying as much in Austin. Houston is still pretty steady. Dallas is still pretty steady from what I understand. So it just kind of depends on your market and, you know, where you're located and also price points. So, you know, price points in the $800,000-$900,000 to $1 million, they're still selling because those people have an idea what they want, and that's like a different class of buyer depending upon where you live. $1 million, $700,000-$800,000 is nothing for a house in New York or California. So, you know, it's all relative to where you live. So I did want to talk about, you know, we have an amazing Facebook group. The link will be below. We post in the group. Again, I hadn't been posting lately. We have had some engagement lately. So definitely click the link to join our Facebook group if you have questions. I check it pretty much every day. If you have questions, I'll get notified. You can ask questions in there. If you want to talk about your wins, we can talk about it in there. I also have a newsletter that I send out multiple times a week, typically 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, on things about real estate, things about the market. If you missed a live, if a live is coming, if you know, been busy and you missed a whole month, you know, we do a collaborative of, hey, these are the videos that came out during the course of the last month. So if you have, you know, the link will be below for you to join the Facebook group as well. Also, that budget worksheet that I spoke about, that is, I think is golden. I think it'll help you get a better look at what is going on with your finances. We think we know, but sometimes, you know, we don't have an idea. If you have any questions, I'm taking questions. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the current market. Actually, I got a question. Depending on where you are, drop your location of where you're looking in at. If you're watching the replay, still do the same thing. And then let me know what type of market you guys are seeing or things you're hearing about in your market. What's going on, Mr. Clark? How you doing, my brother? I didn't get a chance to check your live out. If you know, if you on YouTube, check out my guy's channel, Devon Clark. He has some great lives. He typically goes live on Sunday between 6 or 7 o'clock. He's an amazing agent in the Metro Atlanta area. So definitely check out his page and show my brother some love. Devon, what kind of, you're in the same market as me. Are you seeing the same thing with the buyer's market and seeing more listings than sales right now? While we wait for him to answer, again, guys, if you have any questions that you want me to answer, if you have any questions you want me to answer pertaining to the market, let me know. I will be here for a while to answer questions. In the meantime, you know, something else that people are constantly asking me, they're asking, hey, when are rates going to drop? Are rates going to drop? So the Federal Reserve hasn't dropped interest rates. But again, that doesn't always equate to mortgage interest rates dropping. So, while everyone's looking at, hey, are they going to drop the Feds? Are the Feds going to drop interest rates? That helps. But typically by what I've seen in the last 2-3 years, typically by the time the Fed drops interest rates, mortgage companies have already made their adjustments a few months ahead of time. So I've said in a live before that right now we, are seeing a wave of, where rates drop, go up, drop, go up. Like it's not consistently, okay, it's continues to drop, 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 drop. Like in the last month, we've continued to see mortgage applications drop, which is indicative of the market we're starting to see that less buyers are looking to buy. Mr. Clark, he says, yes, I'm seeing more sellers than buyers, less multiple offers. The market is shifting more to a buyer's market in certain areas. Yep, that's what I thought. And I've seen you, Devon, taking on more listings. So kudos for you, brother. Now we just got to get those listings sold for our sellers who then, when they're selling, they're most likely looking to buy, whether it's still in their area or somewhere else. So, being prepared for those things. And, again, none of us can time the market. And we don't know when it's actually going to shift to a full buyer's market. We don't know when rates are going to drop, how far they'll drop down. But we do know that in order to qualify, you still have to be prepared. Whether interest rates are 1% or they're giving away 0%. If they ever got to 0%, you still have to be prepared. And people don't understand. A lot of things that I'm seeing, I'm doing. This is a brain dump for real. Like things that I've been seeing the last couple of months that have been hurting people who actually want to buy. Multiple jobs. When Megan was on, she talked about the multiple job situation. If you're going FHA or that's the only way you can get financing, you're going to have a 2-year history of working 2 jobs consistently, the same 2 jobs. If you're going conventional, then you're going, you have some leeway, but there can't be a gap between when you leave Microsoft and then go to Google as a second job. So we just got to be cognizant of those things. If there's any other kind of incomes, whether it is Social Security, disability, veterans disability, child support, if you receive child support, annuities, pensions. I've even seen I've heard getting draws from their IRAs as a form of income. Just those type of things. You just have to be prepared, and it has to be a consistency of receiving those type of incomes. The closer you get to obtaining a mortgage, the less job hopping you should do. Now, if you're going to go, and I just use from company A to company B, because you're going to make more money, then that is a good move. Make sure you let your lender know that you're going to do that in the beginning. And if it just so happens to happen during the transaction, I wouldn't advise for it to happen. I wouldn't advise for you to do it during the actual transaction. So I would delay the change in the job until you purchase, if you're in the middle of the transaction. And if you are pre-approved, then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm gonna be making more money because I got a new job. Let your lender know so he or she can update the pre-approval in the file in case you could qualify for more, obviously, if the job pays more. Exactly. Got to get them sold. I close with one of my sellers tomorrow. He is happy. I'm sure he is. Congratulations on your closing, man. Just asking your seller that is selling his home, is he buying as well, or was it an investment property? Hey guys, I know we got some people watching. You have any questions pertaining to the market, financing, getting pre-approved? If you're on here watching and you want to refinance, do you have questions about timing on refinancing? I've pretty much covered my topic. So, if you guys don't have any questions, we can end it early, but I love to ask, to answer any questions you guys have. It was his investment property. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. I mean, there's also people out here investing and making money off their investments. It was a smart buy for him, whether he lived in it and then he held on to it for a while, or he purchased it for an investment and then he fixed it up and flipped it. Like, there's still opportunities for investors as well. The buyer's market is an opportunity for investors. If sellers are willing to sell for a little bit less, that less may just be enough to make it profitable for you to rent, or enough room for you to do some improvements and put it back on the market and sell it. So those are opportunities. Again, guys, if you're just joining the live, in the beginning, we talked about it shifting to a buyer's market, how to prepare for a buyer's market, what it looks like to be in a buyer's market, and things you should prepare for and do now. We also discussed joining my Facebook group, also receiving my newsletter, and then I'd ask you to chime in where you're located and what are you seeing in your current market. If you're watching the replay, comment in the comment section what you're seeing and what your market is like, where you're at, right? Where you're at and what you're seeing in your current market. Another big thing, student loans. If you have not heard from your student loan servicer, that does not mean your student loans are not due. I would if you don't know, find out who your student loan servicer is, even if you think they were forgiven by Joe Biden, but they have not been, right? If you haven't heard anything. Student loans are due for everybody. And they're starting to report people late on their credit reports. And they're also affecting people's ability to purchase. So student loans, they don't report every 30 days. They don't report until you're 90 days due, sometimes 120. And let's say, even though your student loans is for one actual loan, it may report on your credit report, let's say 5 times. But it's just for that. It was just for you, and it's just for that one actual time you went to school, for the time you went to school and graduated. But you haven't consolidated, so it shows 5 different times, right? When they're late, it reports 90 days late. So that's 90 days late 5 times. Versus if they were consolidated, 90 days late 1 time. Now, we don't want any lates, and we try not to see any lates in the last 12 months, but you want to make sure that your student loans are not affecting your ability to purchase, because 5 times 90 days late will tank your credit. I don't care if you got an 800 credit score, it will tank your credit. So if you don't get anything out of this live tonight, call your student loan servicer, find out what the status of your student loans are so it does not affect your credit. I've seen it pop up on someone's credit, and now they have to wait about a year before they can even move forward because of the 90 days late and how it's affected their credit. See what Mr. Clark talking about. Most sellers I'm talking with are looking to sell a second property or something distress-wise is happening in their life. That is what I have been running into currently. Yeah, I know some investors that says they're picking up more investment properties because they're able to come up with a solution for buyers. I mean, excuse me, a solution for the seller. Which there, if they hold on to it, then that's more rentals, right? Or if they say, hey, they can buy it at a certain price, and then they decide to go to flip it. So then there's more inventory actually coming on the market because someone is fixing it up so that it can be rehabbed and put back on the market. Any questions before I log off, guys? I know you got something you want to ask me. Going once, going twice, no sale. Well, guys, it's been great. I will be going live more. My schedule with baseball and track is starting to slow down. Travel, slow down. So I'll be going live more. I'll be posting more in the post. If you are new to the channel and you're joining for the first time, give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying the information. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notifications to my channel. If you're not new and you have not subscribed, do me a favor. It costs you nothing to give me a thumbs up, and it costs nothing to subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you guys and talking with you. And if you have any topics you would like for me to discuss this summer, let me know. And oh yeah, by the way, June is National Homeownership Month. So make sure you watch out for a special offer that I'm going to have, and it's going to be in my post. I'm also going to send it out in my newsletter and put it in the Facebook group. So if you're not a part of those groups, you definitely want to make sure that you join because I have a special offer going out to you guys. I'm Kevin Jefferson, the People's Lender. Have a great night.